Education Bureau in collaboration with Addis Media Network. I am Mastal Mesfin teaching you this class. So before we talk about today's topic, which is tag questions, let us go to the earlier class and talk about or revise the earlier class. In the earlier class, if you remember, we talked about contextual vocabularies. Contextual vocabularies. The contextual vocabularies that we see are a lot, are a few, and they are the first one, benefit. If you remember, we gave different examples and we also defined this word. What does benefit mean? Benefit means the advantage of getting something good or getting something positive in our lives. I have, for example, benefited from this workshop or from this class, meaning I have got something good, something advantageous for myself. So benefit is getting something really good or getting something positive for ourselves. The second one is spark. What does spark mean? If you remember, we talked about spark being something that ignites something, something that sparks something to life. So if you remember, we said her spark is not shown, or she doesn't have any spark. Spark is related in this context to talk about emotion. In this case, we were talking about emotion, the emotional ignition of something. So her spark, her emotional spark is not there. It's not shown. That was one example that we talked about. What else? We talked about also equipment. Equipment is also one other word or vocabulary that we saw in our previous lesson. What is equipment? In this context, or in a lot of contexts, equipment is a material or materials that we use in different situations or for different purposes. For example, we talked about in our previous lesson, we gave an example of a photographer setting up his equipment in the studio. So the equipment that photographer will set or prepare in the studio are what kind of equipment? Equipments like, for example, a camera or a recorder or so many other materials. So equipment is in line with material. What about another word? Aerobic. Aerobic. So aerobic is what? The act of putting in or taking in oxygen into our bodies during exercise. So if you remember, we said aerobic exercises are good for our health because we take in oxygen every time we do aerobic exercises, and that is good for our health. Okay, what else? What other words did we see? For example, well-being. When we talked about well-being, we talked about how it means the stability of a person's mental and physical being. So we gave an example by saying here, if you remember, that whenever we talk, whenever we are conversing with other people, we should take care to what? To not hurt the well-being of others. So whenever we are having a conversation with people, we should take care that whatever we utter, whatever words that we say to that person is something positive. It's not something too negative that might hurt the well-being of that person. What other words do we see? well-rounded. Well-rounded is another word that we saw last time. Well-rounded means, or what we defined it as last time, is a person who is or who has lots of things. It could be education, it could be a person who knows about medical things, or a person who knows about any other fields, okay? So a person who's well-rounded is a person who thinks very critically, and a person who sees a situation from every side, not only from one side. That person sees things from different directions. So that person is what? Really good. A well-rounded person, as we said last time, is a person who's really good at what they do. Number 7 is endurance. Endurance is what we defined it as last time, is the ability to withstand something hard, yes? And a person who has endurance is a person who's very strong, who's able to perform a lot of things because they have the strength and the ability to withstand that thing. Number 8, boom. We said boom as well. Boom is, we defined it as something that is increasing, and that is also, in this case, positive. And we gave example of how the economy of a country is booming and how that is very good for the people living in that country. So boom means an increase in something. The last word that we saw is what? Release. We defined release as a word that is what? A person or a thing that is freed from confinement. If a person is confined or a thing is confined within a certain space, then if that person is let go from that confinement, it is called release. We talked about, for example, we gave example as a prisoner. The prisoner is released today from prison. So that means the person who was in a confined space for a while is now released into the world. So these were some of the words that we saw last time. I'm sure you have been practicing with these words in using them in your vocabularies, using them in your writing sessions, or even speaking sessions with your friends. And let's go to today's class. Today's lesson is tag questions. Tag questions. What are tag questions? Tag questions are phrases. Tag questions are phrases that are added at the end of a statement. Are phrases that are added at the end of a statement. Okay? At the end of a statement. What are those tag questions? Let's give an example. Words like, don't you? Will you? Can you? Couldn't you? And so many, okay? So these are what? Tag questions. these are phrases. They are not full sentences, as you know. So these are phrases that we add at the end of a statement. For example, let's give a full example, okay? Example, she did not come home. So this is a statement. At the end, we add what? We add the tag question. So she did not. So this is what? Negative. She did not come home. Comma, comma. Did she? Question mark. Okay? So where is the tag question? Here it is. Did she? She did not come home. Did she? So we have changed the sentence into a question by adding tag question. Okay? Tag question at the end. So there are rules whenever we are using tag question. There are important rules whenever we are using tag question. The first and foremost is when the statement that comes before the tag question, if the statement that comes before the tag question is positive, and then the tag question will be negative. If the statement that comes before the tag question is negative, and then the tag question becomes what? Positive, as you see here. And we'll give an example. So there are two main rules. There are two main rules when using tag question or question tags. Okay? Two. The first one is if the statement that comes before the tag question is positive, then the tag question is negative. Will be negative. Let's give an example. The statement has to be what? The statement has to be positive. And the tag question will be negative. Okay? One of the question, this one is positive. Let's give an example. They are in their home. They are in their home. This is what? Positive. It's not negative. We don't have a negative indicator, which is not. So this statement is positive, right? They are in their home. Comma. Don't forget, the main statement and the tag question is always separated by a comma. And then we finish this sentence by a question mark because we have already going to put in tag questions. So they are in their home. Aren't they? Aren't they? Question mark. So if you see here, the first statement is what? Positive. And what comes after is negative. Aren't they? Right? So this is how you form tag questions. This is the first rule. When it is positive, the statement is positive, the tag question is always negative. Another example. Students have finished their homework. Students have finished their homework. So this is what? A positive statement. There is no negative here. So what comes after the tag question should be what? Negative. Because this is positive, what comes after should be negative. Okay, students have finished their homework. Comma. Yes, comma. Haven't they? Question mark. Students have finished their homework. Haven't they? So we have here. So we use have again to ask the question. Haven't they? So we have positive here, and then the tag question becomes negative. That is the rule. We'll give one last example and finish with this first rule, and then we'll go on to the next one. He will come later on. He will come later, or he will come later on. Comma. Since this is what? Again, positive. What comes after has to be what? Negative. So he will come later on. Won't he? Won't he? Question mark. Okay? Won't he? Question mark. So if you see here, all of the statements that come before the tag questions are what? Positive. So if they are positive, and then what comes after, which is the tag questions, are what? Negative. So this is the first rule. What about the second rule? The second rule is if the statement that comes before the tag question is negative, comma, then the tag question becomes or is what? Since we say negative there, it becomes what? Positive. Which is the opposite of what we have been discussing about earlier. If earlier we said when the statement is positive and then the tag question is negative. In this case, it is reversed. If the statement is what? Negative, and the tag question has to be what? Positive. Okay, so let's see an example. The students have not, negative, right? The students have not finished or completed their assignment. The students have not finished their assignments. So this statement is what? A negative statement. So if it is a negative statement, what comes after has to be what? The tag question has to be positive. So the students have not finished their assignment. Comma. Have they? Have they? Question mark. So you see here, this is negative. So what comes after, which is the tag question, has to be positive. So let's give another example. They have not arrived yet. They have not arrived yet. Comma, have they? Have they? Question mark. Okay, another example. She is not here. Comma, is she? Again, you see the similarities? All of these statements have what? Negatives in them. They have negatives in them. They are negative statements. So what comes after should be what? Positive. If you see here, is she? Have they? Again, have they, right? So all of them are what? Positive. The tag questions are positive because the idea that came before the tag questions are negative. So these are the most important rules that you have to follow when you are making tag questions, when you are doing tag questions. And the other important thing that we should notice when we are making tag questions is that the other important idea that you have to remember is we use modal verbs when we are making or forming or constructing a tag question. Okay, when we're making a tag question, we use what? Modal verbs, okay? Like can, could, shall, should, okay? And so many. If you are not using modal verbs, you use what? Like we did earlier, we use do, we use did or does. We take what? Alternatives. We take alternatives. But we usually use what? Modal verbs to construct tag questions, okay? To construct tag questions. These are really important to remember when we are making tag questions. What else can we say about tag questions? How? Since we already talked about how to construct tag questions and the important rules of making tag questions, what about how to answer tag questions? To answer tag questions. How do we answer tag questions? Tag questions are usually answered by what? Tag questions are commonly answered by yes or no statements. Or yes or no sentences, okay? They are usually answered like that. Let's give an example. She is here. She is here, comma. Isn't she? She is here. Isn't she? So positive. And then what comes after is negative. So always follow this rule. If it's positive, the first one is positive, the statement. The tag question is negative. So she is here. Isn't she? Your answer might be yes. She is. Or no. She isn't. So your answer might be either of those two, okay? It could be yes or no, depending on the actual situation. So your answer might be yes, she is, or no, she isn't. It depends, because tag questions, we use tag questions to always ask about confirmation, assertion. So we're not really sure if the thing happening is actually happening or not. That's why we have a tag question at the end. Because we're not sure, we're asking assurances, we're asking confirmation. So in that case, the answer might be either way. It might be yes, she is, or no, she isn't. That's how we answer tag questions. Let's give another example. They are building the house. They are building the house, comma, aren't they? Remember, always, we have our statement, which is positive, our statement, which is positive, and then our tag question, which is negative. And it's separated by a comma and then ended by a question mark. So they are building the house, aren't they? The answer might be either of those two. It might be yes or it might be no. So it might be yes, comma, they are. If you want to give more context, you might stop here if you want, or you might continue if you want to give more context by saying, yes, they are building the house. This is a positive answer or feedback. Or your answer might be no, comma, they are not building the house. So if you saw here, I gave a short answer. I said, yes, she is, or no, she isn't. So I didn't explain further. That is correct. I cannot, if I don't want to, I could just stop here. But if I want to give more explanation about the idea that I've been asked with the tag question, I can explain further by giving context or detail, like I did here. I could have said, yes, they are, and finish the idea. But since I wanted to give more context, which I am allowed to, I give more information. I say, yes, comma, they are building the house, which is what I've been asked for. Or I can say, if it's not the case, no, they are not building the house. So this is how to answer tag questions. We answer tag questions when using yes or no. So whenever you encounter tag questions in the future and you're asked to answer, you use the yes and no method. And this is one way to answer tag questions. The other idea is tag questions with imperatives. Okay. Tag questions with imperatives. So what are imperatives? Imperatives are ideas that show command or request. Imperatives are what show command or request. So let's give an example. So whenever we're doing imperatives, we start with the verb first. And that's how it becomes what? Imperative. Let's give an example. Close the door. Close the door. Where is the action here? At the beginning, right? So close the door. Comma, since we are making imperatives with tag questions, close the door is an imperative statement, and then we add our tag questions. How do we add our tag questions here, for example? We add it, since this is positive, we add it by making it negative. Close the door. Will you? So it's asking someone to do something. It's giving a command here. So what comes first is what? The action. Let's give another example. Be quiet. Can you? Or it could be, could you? We could also use, could you? Don't forget, we said that we use tag question. Whenever we're making tag questions, we use auxiliary verbs, right? So can and could are what? Of those sorts. Okay, so be quiet. We're telling someone to do something, in this case, the action. Okay, what other example could we give? What was the other one? Sorry. Don't forget. Don't forget your homework. Don't forget your homework. So what comes after is what? Will you? So, don't. We are doing what? We are telling someone to do something or not to do something. So these are what? How we use imperatives with tag questions. Okay, the other one is tag questions with pronouns. Okay, tag questions with pronouns. So the tag questions with pronouns should agree what? The tag question should agree with the pronoun in the statement. The pronoun in the statement. I will give you an example. She is going to her grandparents' house, comma, isn't she? So we have she is here. She is here. Then our tag question should be what? Our tag question should be in agreement with the statement. In the first statement, we said she is. So our tag question should be, isn't she? Since our statement that comes before the tag question is positive, and then our tag question is negative. Isn't she? We'll give another example. They are playing football. They are playing football later, comma. They are playing football later. Here we have what? They are in the statement, and the statement is positive. So what comes after is what? Negative, and we also have to use these ideas, right? Are they? In this case, aren't they? Because the statement is positive, the tag question has to be negative. Aren't they? They are playing football later, aren't they? If it was negative, for example, if this statement, let's make this statement negative on its own. They are not. They are not playing football later. Comma. The same statement, but this one is what? Negative. So they are not playing football later. So our tag question is positive. Are they? Are they? Yes. They are not playing football later. Are they? So our tag question is positive. In this case, negative because this one is positive. So this is how we use what? Tag questions with pronouns. So let me give you 2 or 3 questions and then we will close this class. Fill the tag questions after each statement. Number 1. They will not perform this evening, comma, your tag question, and then your question mark. Number 2. He can speak English, comma, question mark, blank, and then question mark. Number 3. They have the most loved pet, comma, blank space, and question mark. So I will give you 2 minutes to finish this and then we'll do it together and see how well you did. Okay, I'm sure you all did really well, and let me give you a feedback. So the answer for the first one is they will not perform this evening is what? Will they? Will they? Because it's negative, and then our answer is positive. He can speak English. Can't he? The last one, they have the most loved pet. Haven't they? So, if you see here, if the statement is negative, and then we'll do positive for the tag question, and if the statement is positive, we'll do negative for the tag question. And these are all what we have for today's class. I'm sure you're all interested in learning about tag questions, and you'll use it in your everyday activities. And thank you for joining in, and don't forget to tune in next time. Goodbye.
Welcome back to American Ninja Warrior Jr. After another epic qualifying day,